Hello there, and welcome to Talking Nerdy, the show where we take various story arcs and events from current comics and we cover them. I'm your host, Obi-Wan Jabroni. Now, our story this week is Infinite Destinies 1 through 4. Now, we are only covering 1 through 4. This is technically an 8-part story, and we will be covering 5 through 8 in a different video in about 2 weeks. Now, Infinite Destinies is a collection of various annuals that will show us where all the Infinity Stones are located and who has them at this moment, and will be setting the stage for the future of the Marvel Comics universe. Now, with that, let's start talking nerdy. First up, we have Iron Man Annual number 1, written by Jed MacKay, art by Ibram Robertson, and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. Infinite Destinies Part 1. Born from the remains of an omnipotent being, the 6 Infinity Stones, when gathered, grant untold power. They have wiped out half the life in the universe and resurrected it. They have threatened and saved the multiverse, and now they have been sent out to bond with individuals. No one knows why the stones bond with each bearer, nor what will happen if they are gathered. Will the story you are about to read reveal another stone bearer, or give a clue to the cosmically mysterious intentions of the most powerful artifacts in the universe? Read on, true believers, read on. Now, we open on the streets of New York, and we see that moloids are all over the place, acting crazy, eating everything and destroying stuff. And we see Iron Man and Miles are back to back fighting in the streets with the moloids when they realize that they are acting more like crazed tourists than an invasion crew, and that Mole Man himself is nowhere to be seen. And realizing this, Tony grabs a moloid and asks where Mole Man is and what they want on the surface. It tells them that they all hate Mole Man and want to experience the excitement of New York like they have seen it on the TV and not to invade. Tony drops him and tells Miles that they aren't warriors, they're tourists. They are the first generation to see the world's media and have never experienced war. And Tony says that he can't, beat them up, but he can't let them run wild either. So he calls in a bunch of food trucks and a bunch of tour buses and wrangles up the moloids under control till they're under control. Now we switch to later on that evening on the rooftop, and we see Tony and Miles are watching the moloids do tourist things, and they're eating hot dogs. And Miles looks real depressed and down, and he asks if Tony has ever heard of a new tech-based guy named the Assessor. And Tony says no. Now, Miles goes into a speech here. He he kidnapped me, ran tests on me, on my powers, wanted to know how they worked. You know, like anybody knows, but I guess there was money in it. Ran me till my heart was fit to burst. Gassed me, froze me, shocked me, cut on me. Said he was gonna do it till my body gave out. Said said he'd go after my family next. My dad, my Uncle Aaron. Dad and Uncle Aaron came and got me. The assessor and his crew bugged out, but they're still out there. And Tony says that he's interested now and he's going to go find this assessor and take care of the problem for the future. And at that point, we switch to the NYPD impound lot. And Tony's running a scan on one of the assessor's scrapped drones from its fight with Miles and his Uncle Aaron, aka the Prowler. And he's scanning one of the drones, and he's able to get a trace on the tech source's location. And he tracks it to a building in Brooklyn, and he bursts through the window of the top floor. Waiting inside for him is a group of mercenaries who instantly unload on Tony, but he deflects all the shots and easily takes all of them down. And he turns to explore and turns a corner and comes face to face with a man in an all blue glowing suit with some white circles and lines coming out from it. He kind of looks like Dr. Manhattan with some white shit on him, to be honest. And we learn that his name is Quantum. And Quantum says nothing. He just puts his hand straight in the air like this, and his hand goes through a portal and punches Tony on the inside of his helmet right in the face. And Tony is pissed and confused and tries to blast him, but Quantum teleports away and grabs Tony from behind and teleports them both out of the room. And they appear in a all-black room with screens everywhere, but no doors. And Quantum leaves again as soon as dropping Tony off there. Assessor starts to appear on all the screens and says that the trials shall begin now. And Tony's pissed, and he shoots a missile off, blowing a hole in one of the far black walls and revealing another room. And he enters this next room to find a wind tunnel that activates instantly, sending a bunch of bombs flying towards him as well. And Tony dips and dodges his way through them, successfully getting to the other side and detonating the last bomb, causing a chain reaction, destroying them all behind him. And at this point, we get a montage of various trials with a monologue being read by Tony as well. Test after test after test. I built the Iron Man armor. I know what it's capable of. I could blast my way out at any time possible, but not knowing where I am, that could be dangerous. For me, and for others. Brooklyn, if I'm still in Brooklyn, is no place to set off what I'm packing. But I know deep down that that's just what I tell myself, so I'll feel okay. Because the real reason I'm going through these tests is to get closer to the Assessor. Because I want, because I need, because I'm going to destroy him. It's the cave all over again. It's always about being a prisoner. It's always about the warlords. It's always about the cave. But this time it's not in some far off land, in some far off war. It's here in Brooklyn. And the Assessor is taking kids into his cave, taking what he wants from them. I deserve to be in that cave. I made the tools to kill people as efficiently and cost effectively as possible. Ho Yinsen was a man of peace. He didn't deserve to be in the cave. And Wang Chu and I were the same. I just wore a $50,000 suit and pretended that there was no blood on my hands. I was as much a warlord as Wang Chu was, and in my own way, the only difference was that he didn't lie to himself about it. But Spider-Man, Miles, he's different. He's a good kid. He'll be a good man. He doesn't have what it takes to burn this business to the ground. That's why he's good. But I do. It's right there in my fundamental trauma. Burning bunkers is what I do. Now, after all this and the various trials, Tony finally makes it into the control room and is attacked instantly by Quantum when he arrives through the wall. And he's not faring too well, but we learn that he has his suit running a quantum lock on Quantum's signature. And it finishes during the fight, and Quantum is unable to teleport anymore without Tony being teleported with him. And Tony takes advantage of his Quantum being stunned by this and blasts him in the chest with both his beams and sends him flying across the room. Tony walks up and he confronts the Assessor, who is a very gray-scaled, kind of robot-looking man in a black suit and tie. um, Sorry, I lost my spot. Anyway, sorry. Tony confronts the Assessor, and we learn that Tony was running scans and planting viruses the whole time he was going through all these trials and as soon as he got into the building. And that he found out that the Assessor was only an AI hooked up to this machine in this building. And Tony tells him that Assessor is now his prisoner and slams him to the ground and downloads his consciousness. And then leaves. Now, we switch to later on somewhere else. We're not sure where. And Quantum appears in a room. And a new copy of the Assessor starts to form in the room in front of him, saying, reforming from backup. Unacceptable losses were incurred in the Brooklyn facility. Among them, Assessor Omnicron. His backup only retained the first 5 minutes of subject 04502. This provides significant setbacks to attaining board expectations. Registering emotional response from subject 0004. Interference. Subject 002004 perhaps wrongingly interfered with the loss of Assessor Omnicron. That contract would be void. Said assumption is obviously uncontractual. Trials of subject 002004 power source are incomplete. We will honor our contractual obligations to remove unknown energy source from subject 002004, but not yet. And 002004 is Quantum himself. And while this is being said, the blue suit goo seems to be living and is ripping and digging farther into Quantum's chest. And it seems that he has the space stone inside of him. And this is a cool panel that I have to show for you. Yeah, that's Quantum. And that's the space stone right in the middle of his chest. But that ends this first issue. Taking us to Captain America Annual Number 1. Written by Jerry Dugan, with art by Marco Castello, and colors by Ruth Redman. Infinite Destinies Part 2. Now, we open up this story with Black Widow and Cap in Cap's office, and Widow's giving a speech to him. A couple of winters ago, a stick-up man robbed a place in Huntsville. In the process, he blew away the husband and wife who owned the store for more than 30 years. He was tried and convicted and sentenced to death. Texas was never going to commute his sentence. But it seems that the universe did. A small green meteor struck his prison cell, and it seemed Hector was changed. By all accounts, and the prison footage backs this up, Hector more or less teleports his way out of prison. Of course, teleporting isn't exactly what he would appear to be doing if he were joined with the Time Stone and able to momentarily stop time. So he gives himself a fence parole. And that's where our story gets weird. There was some kind of accident that involved Wolverine and Loki, and Hector and his trail, Ella and Hector, and then his trail went cold. Until 3 days ago. He was spotted teleporting about at the scene of a building fire. He rescued a few old folks, but their wallets were later reported stolen. There's no indication that he may have used the opportunity to line his pockets. So I returned to the scene of the first crime and wired the place on the chance that he'd return. And that's exactly what he did. He even has some nice new villain threads now. The last time the stones were gathered, they were right here on Earth. Adam Warlock opened the Soul Stone and used it to bind a living soul to each stone. I think he thought enough was enough with the damn rocks, but I'm not sure he didn't make us a new headache. Now, Cap tells her, alright, let's go find Hector. And they leave for Texas. So, later on that day in Texas, Widow and Cap have tracked down Hector hiding in an abandoned barn. And Cap confronts him saying he just wants to talk. And Hector says he's not hurting anyone and that he is going to go back and he's going to fix everything that happened. And while they're talking, Widow is sneaking up behind Hector, but he turns and stops time as soon as she gets up to him. and aims Widow's taser at Cap and runs off before time restarts. Cap is hit with the taser, but it has little effect, and they both run out after Hector and jump onto a motorcycle. Now, as they're riding along, Hector sees a woman pushing her baby across the road in a stroller, and he stops time in front of her again. He takes the baby out of the stroller and puts it in the mom's arms before he tosses the stroller at Cap and Widow and jumps on his bike, taking off as soon as time starts back. And Cap sees the stroller flying through the air as time starts. He jumps off the bike and catches the stroller as Widow continues the chase. Sorry. Um, she catches up and pulls up next to Hector and shoves one of her vibro sticks into the wheel. And he goes flying through the air as Widow stops and starts to shoot at his bike. He stops time as she shoots and he hits the ground. He goes and he turns the bullets around to shoot around Widow and he starts to run away again. Time starts back and a bullet skims off Widow's cheek as Cap approaches. They find that they have lost Hector. He is nowhere to be seen again. Now, we switch to later on in the day, a few towns over. And Hector has ditched the bike and is getting new clothes when he's hit from behind by Cap's shield. And Widow comes over to handcuff him while he's laying on the ground. But he disappears and reappears behind her and punches her in the back of the head. And then he disappears again and reappears outside the store holding Cap's shield. And he tells Cap that he's done running and that he can fix everything if they let him. And Cap tells him to hand over the shield and come with them quietly. Hector says no, he can fix it if he had more power. And Cap lunges and tries to punch him, but he freezes time and hits a fuel truck with Cap's shield, causing it to leak. And he leaves and starts time again, and the gas that's coming out of the tank explodes. Cap and Widow are thrown backwards, but not harmed at all, and they easily recover, and they see that he is gone yet again. Cap hits a fire hydrant with the shield to help contain the fire, and he thinks Hector's going after the other stones, and tells Widow to stay on the ready so that they can find him. And that ends this issue. Leading us to Black Cat Annual number 1, written by Jed McKay, with art by Joey Vasquez, and colors by Brian Reber. Infinite Destinies Part 3. Now, we open at a South Korean airport, and Black Cat lands and exits her plane, and she's met by armed forces led by a woman named White Fox. Now, Fox tells her that she is in trouble for entering the country with falsified credentials, but she can make it all go away if Cat can help them. Black Cat agrees and gets in the car with Fox. And as soon as they get into the car, Fox injects a translator into Cat's neck about right here. And she tells her that Fox tells her that she leads the Korean Avengers Tiger Division. And she pulls up a holo of Taeguki, the Korean Superman, basically, and says that he's been compromised. A crime family called the Chow faction has demanded that the government concede power or they will release Takaguchi on the capital. And Kat asks her what the pay is, and Fox says there is no pay, and that the translator also doubles as nanotech bombs. So we switch to later at Barisan Mountain, the Tiger Division base, and Fox introduces Kat to the Tiger Division. Now, the Tiger Division consists of the General, a totem that walks like a man, Mr. Enigma, unkillable brawler, god of the Seoul streets, Luna Snow, a cryokinetic pop star and agent of Atlas that's only here for emergency, Con R2, robot rookie with big shoes to fill, and Aunt Annie, a canny gambler sorceress with a deck of magical playing cards, older than she looks. and I'll give you a glimpse of Tiger Division here. Bunch of ugly motherfuckers. Um, and after introductions are done, they all huddle around a hollow blueprint of the Chow faction base. And Fox tells them that Tiger Division will run distraction outside while Cat and Fox sneak in and try to shut down their control of Takaguki. Now, we switch to later on a plane above the Chow faction base, and Antani opens a portal for Fox and Cat that takes them right outside the base. Now, at this point, we get a cool little just break-in monologue from Cat I'm going to read for you. It's laughably easy to break in. I thought the guards must have been asleep at first, or just incompetent at first. But then we found all the blood, the broken nose, hot penny smell everywhere. And then we found where some of the blood came from. That slaughterhouse stink all over. Like it had soaked in the very structure of the resort. It wasn't hard to track it to its source. Now, as she says that they're going to track it to the source, they find a pile of bodies made up of all the Chow leaders and the guards. Meanwhile, outside, Tiger Division are brawling, are having a fight with Takaguki. And he says that Mr. Chow wanted help toppling the government. I'm sorry, I keep losing my spot, guys. Wanted help toppling the government and put him in this body. But he says with this kind of power, he will listen to no one. Now, back inside the base, Cat and Fox continue their search, and they are attacked by a mercenary group of assassins called the Maidens. Now, battle rages on both inside and out. Cat and Fox are struggling, but are able to kill all the assassins and continue their search. Now, Cat enters a room and finds a man sitting in a chair in a trance, and she calls for Fox. And Fox tells her that the man's name is Mongdal, and that he is a psychic body thief. He can project his consciousness and steal people's bodies. They can't kill him, or he will be in Takaguki's body permanently. And Cat starts to shake him awake, and he wakes up, and they ask where Takaguki is. He tells them that he is unconscious outside and threatens to take one of their bodies if they come any closer. Cat tells him to try, but they both have bombs in their necks, and asks if he was working with Mr. Chow. Now, Mondol gives a monologue at this point again. Of course, he was cooking up this little scheme, this coup, for a long time. He faked my death, supplied me with drugs to increase my power. But when I was in Takaguki's body, it was like an experience. It was an experience like you couldn't believe. The power. But but I betrayed him, of course. I have no interest in politics or leadership. I only care for power and the abuse of it. I have no desire to turn this country into a dictatorship. Not with Takaguki's power. I think I shall make a hell of a living. I'm sure someone will stop me, but how many will I kill before then? Even then, Takaguki will be forever ruined. For a good man to be forced to be a passenger in his own body, while it is made to commit such atrocities. I really must thank you. Beating Tiger Division into unconsciousness was a delight, but I forgot to leave anyone to gloat over. Your presence here has helped me correct that oversight. Now, I think you're lying about the bombs. Perhaps I shall take the foreigner's body for a spell. Make you kill your pretty friend, or be killed by her. Wouldn't that be delicious, White Fox? And Cat interrupts before Fox can say anything and tells him that Fox is a super spy and lies all the time. But I don't. And we both do have bombs in our bombs. And before Fox got in the room, I gave you one so that you wouldn't feel left out either. She smiles and pushes a button on the detonator that she stole from Fox. and his neck bulges out and explodes as he falls to the ground dead instantly. Cat gives Fox the detonator and walks away, ending this issue. Taking us to today's final issue, The Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 2, written by Carla Pacchio and art by Eleonora Carlini, with colors by Eric Archianga. Infinite Destinies number 4. Now, we open on the streets of Queens, and Peter Parker is walking down the street with groceries, and a red haze goes over everyone, and the people around him start to offer free shit to a lady in a red and white supersuit named Star. And Peter's spider sense goes off, and he realizes someone is messing with reality, but he can't see who. And Star continues down the road getting free shit, and followed by a pack of dogs that she stole. And while she does that, Peter continues his search. And we switch to later at Midtown High School. Star enters and makes her way to the gym. And she arrives and sees a man she went to high school with who bullied her and is now the gym teacher. She grabs him and makes him remember and see everything that he ever did to her. At that same little bit later at Peter's apartment, he gets a call from a friend at Midtown High that tells him that the coach has been split into 3 parts and shoved into 3 different lockers and was found in the locker room by kids. And he hangs up, and we switch to down on the streets. And Star has hunted down another bully from her high school days and is messing with her mind as well. Spider-Man shows up and interrupts her and gives a little bit of a monologue. You know, I was bullied a lot as a kid, but as tempted as I was, I only ever dissected frogs, not gym teachers. Also, you owe me an ice cream cone. Yeah, I've been through the kooky wookie brain stuff way too many times in my life, so you're not getting me twice on that one. But if it makes you feel better, I can play along. Listen, I still get my Avenger briefings, no matter how many times I mark them as spam. And Captain Marvel said you aren't actually, good at this. You can't handle your powers, and all of the effects will eventually wear off. Eh, this is seriously messed up. But people still remember that you were there, Ripley. That's how I knew you were heading to Lacey Fisher's house. You can't just murder everyone who was ever mean to you in high school. It ends up being a real downer at the reunions. And sometimes people change. They grow up. Star starts laughing and says, yeah, grow up. That's a great idea. And she turns herself into a giant. Oh, I am so sorry. Turns herself to a giant and starts throwing cars at Spidey. He catches the car and webs them up as Star starts to scream, holding her head and shrinking back down. She quickly recovers and shoots out webs of her own and swings away, being chased by Spidey through the streets and alleyways. She don't make it far, though, before she screams again and falls to the alley below, still holding her head. Spidey lands in front of her and says that she says she wants to go home, and disappears right in front of him. Now, elsewhere, Star appears outside a house and enters to find her mom making cookies. Her mom embraces her and said she's so sorry for everything she put Star through. And Star backs up confused and asks why she called her Star. She says, I'm sorry, Ripley. You know it couldn't last long. And as she says this, her mom fades and becomes Spider-Man to finish that sentence. And the house around her starts to fade away as well. And we see Spidey sitting in front of her, and they are in front of her mom's gravestone. Star turns to the stone. Turns to... What? Sorry. Star turns to stone and lunges at Spidey, and he easily dodges it. And Star falls to her knees trying to use her powers, but she can't. And Spidey gives her another one of his speeches. You're all juiced out, kiddo. I checked with, the smart people again on my way over. Human bodies can't contain this kind of power for as long as you've been doing it. Granted, most people wouldn't have used up their powers stealing puppies. Tater Tot's mom wants him back, by the way. But I do understand why you did it. A little bit, at least. Do you know how I knew someone was pulsing around with reality today? 'Cause you're not the only one with regrets buried in this cemetery. I spent hours upon hours here wishing I could undo all the stupid, thoughtless, selfish mistakes. Begging to snap my fingers, say some magic words, and change everything I've screwed up. So yeah, I recognize that feeling. On the street today, that gut-wrenching need to remake your world. But let me assure you, from years of terrible, grief-stricken experience, even when it happens, it makes everything so much freaking worse because it's not real. Stop, Ripley. The only things we can fix are ourselves. All that violence you grew up with, the pain, you can break that cycle. You can do better. And it will be real. And Star says he's right. And she can be a hero and make things right again. He tells her no, she has to go to jail for the things she done. She smiles and turns around, touching her mom's gravestone, and tells him bye. Spidey lunges forward to grab her, but she disappears before he can. He looks at the gravestone and sees a message left wrote on it for him. Thanks for giving me time to change. Charge up with the big weepy pep talk, and I'm keeping the dog. See you later, Spider Chump. And that ends this first half of Infinite Destinies. I hope you all enjoyed this week's video. Join us next week where we cover Star Wars The High Republic, number 6 through 8. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Feedback is always welcome. You can also find us on the Jabroni Nerd Network Facebook page and on Twitter at Jabroni Network. So until next week, guys, keep talking nerdy.